Welcome to the newest episode of Go and Make, a podcast by Jesus Film Project that's dedicated to celebrating innovations in the Great Commission. I'm Ryan Wagner, one of your hosts and Director of Marketing and Communications here.
Yeah, and I'm Andrew Crabtree, other host and an advocate for the ministry here. Today we had a really cool guest on.
Yeah.
Aaron Thomson was here sharing kind of innovations that him and his team are doing with youth and Gen Z through an app called Voke.
Yeah, it's a really great team here with Jesus Film Project that's really focused on that generation. And they're just learning tons of things, trying new things. So anyways, you'll hear more about it in the conversation. Think you'll love it, so check it out. Live it up, live it up, live it up. Well, this week on Go and Make, we have our guest here, Aaron Thomson. Aaron, thanks for jumping in and getting in the seat here.
No problem. It's a pleasure to be here, Ryan.
So, Aaron, you've been on staff with Crew for how many years now? It's been
20, just coming up on 21.
21 years.
Wow.
Were you and your wife together those whole 21 years?
Yeah. We got married, and I think we actually joined staff just before we got married, technically.
Yeah.
So I think I'm about 20 and 3/4 years. So I put 3/4 because the U.S. loves fractions. So.
We do love fractions. I didn't know it until you said that, but apparently we love fractions. Because even when you said fractions, I was like,
yeah, that makes sense. I like fractions. It. Yeah.
I try to connect with my audience. Yeah.
So of those almost 21 years, how long have you been in your current role, and maybe speak to what that is?
Yeah, it's a great question. Kind of both in just serving in New Zealand for 15 years, and so really the last 6 or 5 3/4 we've been here in the US, and so been doing some stuff with global digital strategy and just the bigger picture of how do we take our product to global locations and digitally. So that's been probably the prior 4 years, and really the last 2 years I've been with Jesus Film and with a product that I give some leadership to called Voke, and it's very film driven, so it's a great fit with Jesus Film, and what Jesus Film's got a long history of visual media, so really enjoying being part of the Jesus Film family.
Yeah, so you've been working with Voke for quite a while now, and on this podcast, Go and Make, we use that as a way to communicate, like go and make disciples, and also there's a lot of just energy in that kind of go and make. We want people to go and engage with people around them, and Voke is a platform that is kind of designed around that concept. So as we bring in innovative ideas and innovative conversations that people are using as culture changes to help engage with people, how does this fit in that category? We know it does, but we'd love for you to be able to explain what these are things we're trying that we feel like no one else is really doing.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I find myself in the software industry in the sense of I'm building software with Voke, and to a lot of people it's like, well, we've got Gmail. Do you really think you can make a better client than Gmail for email? I'm like, well, probably not. I mean, there are a lot of off-the-shelf kinds of solutions that we can license, and so why go build your own platform for ministry per se? And I think the answer there is it just comes down to the nuance of how we want to interact with our audience. And so how do you create an opportunity for two people to really discuss what is the gospel? What does that have to do with me personally? And in that space, it's young people. I work mostly with 14 to 24-year-olds, and so that's the audience that we're building for. And they have things like Instagram's probably the most popular platform, at least here in North America. But at the end of the day, that's not a place where the average 14 to 24-year-old feels comfortable about engaging with what they believe. They'll tell you what they believe about cookies and mocha coffee and where you can get the best tires for your bicycle. Not probably going to say too much about what it is that they believe personally, and so we have to create a space for them to be able to have those conversations, because those conversations are really, really important. And so I think we all agree that those conversations are important, but really the stumbling block for the vast majority of us is like, well, how do I get that conversation started? And once I get started, then what? Then what do I do? And so, giving people a leg up in that space is really important. And, so back to sort of being creative and building things. I mean, I think we've got to take what we can off the shelf, and where we can't find it on the shelf, we've just got to fashion it and build it ourselves, and within a certain amount of time, within a certain amount of budget.
So what do you mean by that? Take things, if it's on the shelf, what do you mean?
So, in terms of building software, there's a lot of libraries that we can get our hands on. There's a lot of things that others have thought a lot about. And so, for example, chat. If we can integrate a chat module, will probably makes more sense
inside
to
the app.
To build something custom.
Right. So let's spend our time building what others aren't building. Not just to be unique, but to solve problems that we uniquely want to solve. And to be quite honest with you, massive platforms like YouTube don't really care what kids discuss. They just want people to watch.
Want the
They want them on
eyeballs,
it,
right?
yeah.
So if that's cats flying through the air, then they don't mind. For us, I think we just want to go to a deeper place than that, and we want to provide ministry opportunity for people. We want to bring two people closer together, and it's not necessarily going to happen around a cat video per se, but content. So content is important. I think in Jesus Film we realize that we've got some really good quality content in our film production. We're building more quality content, but it's about relationship. And so it's one thing to think about the individual, and this is a space where inside of YouTube people just watch this, they watch the next thing. We all know about how the algorithm delivers the next thing that you would like to watch, but there's no relationship there per se. I mean, there's a relationship between you and the platform, which is called a play icon that you push, and you like that, but that's very inanimate. I'm talking about relationship with the person on the other end. So how do we take that content and innovate around that to introduce a friend and a discussion? And that increases relational, depth. And so, what kinds of questions would I need? And, some people often say to me, Aaron, I don't know how you come up with these questions. These are great questions. Like, I love the question. I'd love to ask it, but I don't know if I could come up with that question myself. So building a platform that provides those pieces.
There's a lot of thought behind that.
Right. And then it's just back to what problems are we solving for people.
So the product hasn't been live for very long, right? So I don't know how much data you have here, but what results are you seeing, and in what ways are you kind of seeing God move through the platform and it shaping young people's lives?
Right. I think we've been live for probably about coming up on 3 years.
Is it that long?
And we've gone through some different iterations in the product. I think when we started out, it was more about like, hey, how do I help you share your faith? And what we found is it's not a lot of young people really thinking about that. So we've had to kind of go broader to, how do we help people go deeper with God and others? And that's something that gets a lot more traction. And so in the midst of that content, how do we help people traverse through a series of content that's staircased in a way that leads to a point, and where they get more clarity, develop some conviction in what they believe, and confidence. And those are kind of the 3 C's of what we're delivering in Voke. And then that comes to a point where now they can engage their friend. They can reach out to somebody. And so we've built that all into an adventure. And so that piece is really going to be gone for about 3 months.
Okay.
And so what are we seeing? We're seeing about 40% of people who come into our app who start an adventure, and 1/3 of those people are doing that with a friend, which is pretty mind-blowing, really.
Yeah.
When you think about the inertia that it takes to step out to a
really
friend.
do that. Yeah.
It's a lot harder it's easy to open an app by yourself, but to actually share it and do it together, that takes, exponentially more effort.
Yeah, what kind of stories are coming out? I mean, there's been people earlier this summer that were kind of on the road, so to speak, for Voke, engaging with different youth groups, churches, other organizations, ministries all over the country. What kind of stuff were you discovering out of that time?
Yeah, so what Ryan's pointing to is a Go Voke tour that we ran. It went for 3 months, went through 5 states, sort of Colorado, and south through Oklahoma, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, and out the coast, and San Diego and Los Angeles. And so
was in a VW minibus, right?
Yeah, it was an
Yeah.
old school 1972 camper. But so those guys, we had Peter and Lisa Hoppy that just did a phenomenal job. They got out in front of about 1,420 kids in youth groups and middle school, high school, and so just getting in front of also youth pastors and getting the opportunity to be able to come on site and to connect with their ministry and get up in front of kids and just help them to go Voke, help them to grow in their clarity, conviction and confidence. And so I think we just learned a ton. I think a lot of it, bringing a product which is a digital product, to a youth group or a ministry, for most intents and purposes, like people are like, what is it? And so they're not really anticipating somebody coming to their door with like, hey, we have an app and we'd like to help your kids grow. And so I think a big part in that for us is just like, well, okay, what are you anticipating, or what would make Voke more valuable opportunity for you as a youth leader and the youth you have? And their answer is like, well, I like what you're trying to help the kids in our youth group do, but I'm not involved with that. Like, how do I, as the youth leader here, be involved with what's going on as they grow? And so we realized we need to deliver a group opportunity with Voke for youth leaders to be shoulder to shoulder alongside.
So that puts the youth leader in the app with them.
And then it puts all the kids in that youth group together. And so Sharon's saying something really encouraging. Derek's over here. He's like, I don't really get this. And all of a sudden, the peers are in there to be able to support one another. The youth leader's like, wow, I didn't realize that Sharon had this much energy for this topic.
Right.
So, that's where we deliver value to a youth leader. And
so if people wanted to know more, I was going to say so that never heard of it before. Where do you find out about Voke?
Yeah, you can go to vokeapp.com.
Vokeapp.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
VOKEAPP.com, and our group piece will probably launch early in 2020. So first couple of months, you'll see the group piece roll out. At the moment, we're just focusing on something called multi-choice, and it's just giving users the ability to choose from a set list of some options on the back of watching content. And through there, we're just giving people the opportunity to understand the gospel, make a decision for Christ, and then just handle their reservations, their hesitations. What if they've got further questions? Like, how do we handle all of that? And especially when you do that with two people. So if you're reaching out to me and we're going through this experience together, and so it's like, what did you say to placing your faith in Christ? And then what did I say? And so then we get to actually discuss that together. And so building that kind of niche environment for that level of discussion, that depth of discussion, isn't as easy as just a text message in YouTube.
When we talk this, the purpose of this podcast is, innovations, and I think this is obviously very different than a lot of, youth-focused platforms. And I think that right now you're completely on maybe the cutting edge of what's going on with youth ministry. As you look forward, what's next? How do you stay with that? How do you? Gen Z is a very ever-evolving, ever-changing demographic. What's the plan for maybe moving forward and staying with that?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and especially in light of just phenomena. Like, you look what happened 8 years ago when you and I got on Facebook, and it was a big thing, and our parents got on there, and and then kids have gotten into Instagram. It's what's driven the rise of Instagram, and then the anonymity of Snapchat. And so it's like, platforms change. I think some of the dynamic changes too about how people communicate. And so latest thing that's going on right now is called TikTok. And so it's just like really short clips that people run along with. And so, okay, what's that got to do with like what Voke is doing? And I think the thing that's not going to change is the fact that people care about people. And so, I guess you and I can TikTok a lot and we can laugh. That's probably one of the bigger things that drives TikTok is just its humor. It's lighthearted. But once again, I don't know what to do beyond that TikTok. It's back over to me finding some content that's a little bit more life-changing. And so I think for us, it's like, okay, these things out here are changing. Probably what's not changing is like the fact that I care about my friend and I want to make a difference in their life. And so for us, I think where Voke needs to go is make it easier. So we're just always removing friction from that opportunity to connect with our friends. So we're building some what are called felt needs bridges. So most of our friends aren't really waking up in the morning going, wow, I wonder how like the Trinity works. They're mostly waking up going, oh my gosh, I wonder if I'm going to make it to work on time, and things like that. And I wonder how I'm going to pay my rent, or I wonder if, you know. So how do we address their felt needs? And I think for us, we're going to build some little bridges around the 6 most top-ranked kind of felt needs that our audience is up against. So that's kind of a new thing for us in 2020.
Sweet. Well, thanks for coming in
This was
today.
great.
I mean, I always love being able to hopefully give whatever platform is available to this type of thought, because it's about these types of things. We need people in the missional kind of space to be thinking about always the next audience, the next gen coming up, but ways that we can engage with them. And I think I'm grateful that you're a part of this whole Jesus Film Project cruise space, because it's important. And I don't know other people that are thinking and leading in this type of area in this way, because it really offers kind of like forward thought on what's down the road. So
Yeah, I mean,
anyways, thanks
as
for
somebody who's working in youth ministry, like just seeing somebody caring about that space, being really thoughtful in that space, it's exciting, and I can't wait to show the kids that I'm working with the group feature when it launches on Voke. So.
Yeah, hey, well, thanks for the encouragement. Pleasure to
man.
be here.
Yeah.
Dude,
Fun.
thanks for coming.
No problem.
See you.